your school brochure. You can have examples of nice videos, short videos of good practice from around the school. It's pretty awesome. That's completely free. It works on Android as well, if you have an Android set of devices, as well as on iOS. Okay, another way of using QR codes. This is a friend of mine, Alex Blagona, or Blagona on Twitter, and he came up with the idea of getting his children to do the traditional concept of writing how to form the perfect tense with avoir and être in their exercise books using colour coding, and then he used the QR code linking to a YouTube clip from Wallingham MFL channel, who were then describing another way of forming the perfect tense. So in other words, he's creating distance learning opportunities for the children to access via scanning the QR code and then linking to a YouTube channel or a YouTube clip. So he was talking about this on Twitter one day, and I said, that's a great idea, Alex, but have you thought about using this app called ShowMe, which turns your iPad into a type of interactive whiteboard? So what you can do is you can annotate on the screen, and everything is recorded, so all your annotations, your voice and everything are turned into a video which you can publish online onto your ShowMe account, and you can make private. So in other words, the URL ends with lots of letters and numbers you wouldn't be able to guess by mistake, as it were, and then you can then access that via a QR code. So in other words, you can scan the QR code and then it will play the video which I'm just about to show you. Okay? Now, I wrote about this again in The Guardian in November 2012, all about the whole conversation and what Alex did. And that evening, because he was so inspired by the idea, he created the following on the sofa about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, which is pretty cool. So this is looking at this and that in French using ShowMe. You'll all be doing this tomorrow.
Okay, here's the deal. You've got 4 words to say this. You've got pen, so, you've got set, you've got set.
Sounds a bit tight, doesn't it?
And you've got say. You use the word so in front of nouns that are masculine. You use the word set also in front of words that are masculine, but they start with a vowel. You use the word say for masculine and feminine, but as long as they're plural, and you use set for words that are feminine. Simple as that.
Simple as that, okay? So now he could have added an image as well. What you can't do with ShowMe is you can't add written text, but you can just annotate. So I think that the idea of creating distance learning opportunities, particularly for explaining grammar points, using ShowMe, or there are other apps which let you do the same sort of thing, but ShowMe I think is particularly good and it's free. It's just an awesome idea. And obviously the children could create their own screencasts explaining ideas to each other, and if a child can teach another child on how to do something, that's arguably the best way of learning. So because they will retain a lot more compared to other techniques apparently. So there you go. So that's using ShowMe on creating a grammar screencast. Okay, now what about using QR codes talking about audio files and creating audio files which link to QR codes that way as well? Now this is the article which I've just referred to, exploring the educational potential of QR codes. And we were talking about QR codes one day, as you do, on Twitter. And Jane Johnson, who is the head of languages in a secondary school in Birmingham, tweeted me this picture of a speaking wall that she's done. So not using Orasma, but using an app called Crokit, which allows you to record short audio clips of 30 seconds or less. And then she's created a QR code of each audio clip and then put them around the posters that they've done to make a talking wall, which is a pretty cool idea as well. So it means the children can scan the QR codes and then listen to each other describing the images in the target language. So what a great, cool way of promoting speaking. So that's creating audio QR codes. If you've got a Mac, you might want to explore the possibility of using that to create an ebook using iBooks Author. Now there is an app on the iPad called Book Creator, which is a wonderful way of making books. We were looking at that a moment ago actually in the BYOD session. And apparently very soon there's going to be an Android version as well, which I'd encourage you to have a look at. So that's Book Creator. And this is iBooks Author, which is a free program, but it's only available on the Mac. And you can make a lot more intricate ebooks using that software. So this is José Ricardo, who made an e-book using iBooks Author for his sixth form on, obviously, Franco. And it included, multimedia clips, and you can really go to town if you want to with all the sort of interactivity in iBooks Author. And it's something that, if you've always wanted to do a textbook, then why not use this piece of software to do that? And there's lots of hands-on guides complete guides on how to use different bits of software. So that's one for iBooks Author. But I personally find YouTube is great for discovering, good ways of using certain software. You may have heard of the idea of flipping the classroom. Has anyone heard of that? Flipping the classroom? So the idea of flipping the classroom is that the teacher will create the content, such as using video or using audio, the children access before the lesson, so they access that at home as a type of homework, and then having watched the videos or listened to the audio, they'll then come into the class and they'll get on with the activity straight away. So there won't be any delivery of content in the lesson. They'll be doing all the analysing and all the questioning and all the exercises. So in other words, it will save time in that sense. Now, Wilden School, which is a school in Hampshire, are leading the way in the UK on the use of flipping the classroom in languages. So there's 3 colleagues there who are really, really keen on doing this, and you can follow them on Twitter, etc. This is their blog here, fliplearningmfl.blogspot.co.uk, and they are recording their experiences in flipping. And what they've been doing recently, which I think is a really nice idea, is they've been creating these videos, which are available on their YouTube channel, and they've been using what's called a Google form, which you may know about. So it's like an interactive form that the children will then complete, having watched the video, and then based on their answers, the teachers then put them into groups according to if they've watched the video first of all, and how well they've done with the video. So they'll put them into 3 separate groups according to their answers on the Google form, which is pretty cool as well. Now, there are other people that have been inspired by what Wilden have been doing. And so there's Samantha Broom here, who does a blog called Languages Resources, who's been blogging about her experience of using the flipped method in her language lessons. There's also Aurelie Charles, who works at Longfield Academy, who's been using an app called Video Scribe to do her flipping. And there's also Farid Shahadin, who works in Northampton, and he's been blogging about flipping the classroom as well. Now, this Google Hangout screenshot, this is they've done quite a few Google Hangouts with not just people from the UK, but flippers from the States as well. So language teachers who are flipping in the States, such as Kristen Pontarelli and also Heather Whitten, who is probably the most well-known person in the world who's a language teacher who's using the flipped classroom approach. So I think this is fantastic, the fact that you've got people in the UK connecting with experts in the US, talking about moving our practice forward. So it might not be for everybody, but if you want to find out about what they're doing with flipping the classroom, then you've got all the links there to explore in your own time. Now, publishing your content to a real audience using YouTube is a really good idea, particularly if you've got things like iPads and what have you. So this is again from ISCA Languages, so Kelda Richards School, and lots of the videos that they create on the iPad they publish on their own YouTube channel, and you can check them out here under ISCA Languages, which is something that you might want to have a look at. I know there's e-safety issues and all those sorts of things. It goes without saying, if you publish anything that the students have done, you need to have parental permission, but what a good idea. Okay, talking of publishing to a real audience, this is the work of Laura Knight again, or I mentioned already. Now, she was using a screencasting app, not ShowMe, but one called Screen Chomp, which is also free. So that's the word screen, then chomp, as in a bite, Screen Chomp. And she was doing the topic of clothes, as you can see. So she was getting the students to draw different pictures on what they were wearing, and then she published the results onto the school blog, the departmental blog. And then somebody from Screen Chomp, from the US, left a comment on the blog saying how impressed they were on the use of Screen Chomp. And obviously the students just thought that was incredible. So this idea of publishing to a real audience and getting real feedback from real people is really, I know I've said real a lot, but it's really, really engaging and powerful. And that's something we should be doing in the 21st century. And it's very, very easy to do, to connect with people from around the world and to publish to authentic audiences. So if you're not doing that already, I would suggest trying to do that. Now, Socrative, which is again a tool we looked at earlier on, this is a very, very popular tool, which works on everything essentially. It works on iPads, on Android devices, on Surface tablets, on PCs, on laptops, on Macs, etc. And what it lets you do is it lets you have a classroom voting system whereby you can send all the children's answers all to the middle of the screen, all together, and then you can do things like multiple choice, true, false, short answer, and you can even pre-make quizzes and get all the answers appearing here in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. So all the correct answers are highlighted in green, all the incorrect answers are highlighted in red. So you can see this is just the one question here, but let's say we have multiple questions. You can immediately see which students have difficulties with certain areas and what you need to work on. So it's a free tool and it's fantastic for formative assessment. So if you don't know about this one, I definitely check it out. Right, I'm going to talk about Web 2.0 tools. Are we, just to check, are we finishing at 10:02? Is that the idea for this? I'm talking for an hour and I'm sorry. Yeah, so okay, so that's fine, okay. No problem, okay. So if you haven't got an iPad and you're not interested in social media, this bit's for you now, okay? So if you've fallen asleep, you can wake up right now, okay? So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about free web tools that language teachers are using, not just from the UK, but from around the world, which you can find useful for enhancing language learning. Now, this is a lady called Sylvia Tolosano, who I normally mention in presentations that I do. She's doing amazing work she's now based in Sao Paulo, and she's very much into the idea of using technology to enhance teaching and learning. And she's created a presentation here with 70 tools in 70 minutes. So 70 tools which are good for enhancing teaching and learning, and you can find out about them all here. Now this is José Picado, I mentioned already, who was head of languages at Nottingham School, and is now assistant head at Surbiton School near London. And he's created this blog post called A to Z of Internet Resources for Education, which he updates on a pretty regular basis. So for each letter of the alphabet, he's chosen at least one, even for X, at least one tool which you can use to enhance teaching and learning. Now if you do a search for A to Z Guardian, Joe Dale, you'll find a similar one that I did a few months ago now, which you can have a look at as well. So this is a good place to start if you're not really sure. Now, most of these tools are still available. Not all of them. There's things like Posterous, which is somewhere, which doesn't exist anymore, because when something is free, there you go, Posterous up there. When something is free, you can't guarantee it's always going to be available. But nearly all the other tools here are still available and are proven to be good for enhancing language learning. So I would definitely check out all of those. There'll be a short quiz at the end as well. And that's a good starting point. Right, so I'm going to show you some blog posts that people have written about the use of some of these tools to hopefully inspire you. Now this is the work of José Picado again, I've mentioned, on his Box of Tricks site. If you don't know Box of Tricks, I'd really encourage you to have a look at it. It's very, very good. And this was him talking about using a web tool called Domo Animate, which is good for promoting creative writing and particularly hair work. So you have multiple backgrounds, you can add multiple characters, and then you can add your own text and your own speech bubbles, and then create like this animated version of your dialogue, which you could use at Key Stage 3, Key Stage 2, or Key Stage 4, I would suggest. And this is a German example of the same tool. And here, these are some video tutorials that I created for SILT, which unfortunately no longer exists. The website does still exist, so you can still access this. So back in 2009, 2010, I created a number of different video tutorials for things like Domo Animate, Audacity, blogging, Woolwisher, which is now Padlet, various online tools which are all free, and how you can use them as a step-by-step guide. So this is one for Domo Animate, which I've just mentioned. So if you want to watch those in your own time, then that's another way of accessing or getting some ideas on how you can use this in the classroom. Now, Animoto, if you haven't heard of Animoto, it's a free tool. It's also available as an app as well for iPad and Android. And you can use it on a Surface as well, because I did the other day. So that's all fine. And what you can do with this is you can create a professional-looking slideshow, multimedia slideshow, made up of images, audio, video, text, etc. Now this is the work of Tar Hill Wood School. The head of the department there is Bertram Richter, and he's been doing some fantastic things with technology in general, particularly with Skype actually. If you have a look at his, if you go onto SlideShare and have a look at his different presentations there, so there's some fantastic ones on the use of Skype in the classroom. So what he was doing, this was at a language event they'd organised at the school called the X Factor, and he'd taken different pictures and different videos and what have you, and put it all together into an animated slideshow, completely for free. Now, if you sign up, you can make a video of up to 30 seconds in length or less. But once you've signed up, if you go to the bottom of the home screen, you click on the education link, you can apply for an educator's account. And that allows you to create unlimited length videos. So you have to log in first of all, you have to create an account first of all, you then click where it says education at the bottom, and then you can then sign up for an educator's account, which means you can make unlimited length videos, which is fantastic. Now, Amanda Salter, I mentioned already, she's been using Animoto to promote language learning in general and language awareness. And what she's done is she's turned her PowerPoints into Animoto slideshows. And there's a little trick that she's done, which I'm sure you'll find useful, which is the following. When she's been saving her PowerPoint presentation, you go File, Save As, don't you normally? If you click on the drop-down menu next to where it says Save As Type, and you scroll down a little bit, you'll find one of the options is PNG, right? Or there's one for JPEG as well, but I would recommend going for the one that says PNG. And what that does, you can turn all your slides into individual images. So once you turn your whole presentation into a set of different images per slide, you can then import them into Animoto. So and the reason for doing that is with Animoto you can't actually add that much text per slide, you're limited. Whereas if you use this method, you can add as much text as you want because it's coming from an original PowerPoint presentation. Does that make sense? Yeah? So that's a really nice trick, not just in Animoto, but any multimedia tool, you can use that trick to convert a PowerPoint into a set of images and then import them into something else and then add audio or whatever it might be to make it really groovy. Okay. Right. Vokeys. I'm sure most people have heard of Vokeys, all right? So if you haven't heard of Vokeys, it's a great way of promoting speaking. I know you can do text-to-speech as well, but I think it's particularly good for speaking. And this is the work of Claire Hampson, who's a language teacher at Thirsk School in Yorkshire. And she was doing some Vokeys with her year 7s at the time. So they were able to create these little avatars, and then she could publish them onto the school blog again to an authentic audience. And this again is José talking about using Vokey, and he's talked about three lessons. So he's documented exactly how you could put this into practice over 3 lessons on the use of Vokey. So it's been around for a while now, since 2007 I think. But if you don't know it, I would definitely encourage you to have a look at it. And as of I think today, I think I'm right in saying they put out this new thing called Vokey Presentation, which is not free. I think it's $30 per year, but you can create your own presentations with a little Vokey character in like the bottom left, as it were, introducing each slide. So if you haven't heard about that, have a look at it. There you go. Hot the press today, Vokey Presentation. Have a look. And there's also Vokey Classroom as well, which is also you have to pay $30 a year. But have a look at that. There you go. That's the wonder of Twitter. There you go. You wouldn't have known that if you hadn't come. Okay. Toondoo is a nice online tool for creating cartoons. So no animation, it's just for creative writing. And this is Susie Buell, who is now the PGC lecturer for languages at York University. This was when she was in the classroom still, and she was using this obviously to promote the writing in French using Toondoo. And normally children like cartoons, don't they? So using cartoons as a way of enhancing teaching and learning is a great idea. So that's Toondoo, and then she embedded the Toondoos that they made onto the blog. Storyboard. Probably some of you have heard of Storyboard. This works on the iPad as well as the web version. There isn't an app, you can do it as the web version. I personally find it a bit clunky on the iPad. You've got to remember to press save, otherwise you might lose your work. But on the web tool version, it's fine. And Storyboard allows you to create your own storybooks. So it's, again, great for creative writing. Now, you have access to many examples of professionally produced artwork, which you can add to your books. You can't add your own images, you can't change the font and that sort of thing, because they're looking for a consistent style, but it's a very good way of doing creative writing. Now, the images here are obviously aimed at a younger audience, but there are some images which are fine for older audiences, which is not to say there's inappropriate content, just make that absolutely clear, but they would be probably more appropriate for older students. So if you haven't tried this out, have a look at it, it's great. And also there's you can have a class account as well if you want to, which means you can have up to 3 classes per account, and that means that when you create the account, you can register your students for those 3 classes, and then having done that, you can get them to, well, send them an assignment, and then all their replies, all their books, they can then send to you, and it's all private and all within your account. I don't see why you couldn't create multiple accounts if you want to use it for multiple classes, but that's a blog here from Chiltern Edge School, which is near Reading, and this is the work of Sarah Garney, who's the head of languages there, who's also part of the MFL Twitterati, surprisingly. Okay, and just to finish off with, that's fine, okay, just to finish off with, this is a graphic from Wes Fryer, who is an A-list educator from the US, and he's particularly looking at the idea of using web tools and apps for creating content. So if you're a believer in Bloom's taxonomy and achieving those higher order thinking skills at the top, that is all about creating, isn't it? So interactive writing, creating ebooks, podcasting, photo stories, narrated art, screencasting, puppet videos, etc., etc. This fits very, very nicely into the idea of language learning, doesn't it? So producing creative outcomes, and it's so easy now to do that with technology. And so this is fantastic. So I would ask you the question: what do you want to create today? Maybe not today, but tomorrow. I know you're feeling a bit tired, but so what do you want to create tomorrow? Once you've had a cup of tea and lie down, and that's really, really important, I think. And so it's so easy now with our access to lots of free tools or free apps. We can do all of these things very, very easily. So if you're not doing this sort of stuff already, not to say you should do it all the time, I would definitely encourage you to do it from time to time. Again, these are 2 presentations from Silvia Tolosano describing how you can use iPads to transform teaching and learning. So again, you've got some links there to see where you can find out about more information. Now, it may be that you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by some of the things that I've been talking about today, but don't worry, that's completely normal. Okay? There was an article in Telegraph in 2011 talking about some research done by Cambridge University saying that 1 in 3 feel overwhelmed by technology, which is interesting, isn't it? So if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, it's okay, it's fine. Now, these are some of the findings from that report, and it says, as you can see, Britons overwhelmingly viewed new technologies such as mobile phones and social networks as a positive thing, which is good, I think. 38% of 10 to 14-year-olds felt that too much of it could be upsetting. So obviously they'd be tweeting each other or texting each other, telling each other how upset they were and then down. 34% of 25 to 34-year-olds reported feeling similarly. This is very important, I think. Young people, however, did not say that they favoured digital communication over face-to-face. So they still really value face-to-face communication. Okay, so yes, the technology is very powerful, but they still want to talk to each other face-to-face as well as virtually, which I think is very interesting. And 65% of adults said they preferred communicating in person. The same was also true of 64% of children. So we mustn't forget about the power of the face-to-face, but which is not to say that we should ignore technology completely. And my personal view is that we should educate children on the use of social media and technology and what have you in school in a safe environment, so we're sort of holding their hand, as it were. So we're not sort of letting them loose at the age of 13, so that they can suddenly have access to all these. Well, they've probably got Facebook accounts at the age of 10 already, anyway. But we shouldn't be we shouldn't just be letting them loose at that age. We should be showing them safe ways and for e-safety point of view, safe ways of using these technologies, so that when they get to the age of 13, 14, that they're a lot more techno-savvy about about the potential risks, and I just think that's just a safe thing to do. That's a good idea to do. We shouldn't just be shutting everything down, locking everything down. There was a report in 2011, I think it was 2012, from Ofsted called ICT in Schools, and they said that some schools that were deemed outstanding, they had a view of like a moderated view, or not a controlled view, but a moderated view on the use of technology. In other words, they didn't expect to lock everything down, or like a managed approach. They didn't have the view of locking everything down. They would give the children some freedom in how they use technologies in school, because and I think that's the right way forward. I think if we just lock everything down and shut everything down, then by the time they get to 13, they're going to be like kids in the sweet shop, literally. This makes a funny point, but it makes a serious point at the same time. So those people that haven't seen this graphic before, I've used it for quite a few presentations now, but I really like it, I must say. So in other words, the child is saying, how do you think my first day at kindergarten went? They didn't even have Wi-Fi. So the point here is that we know that young people come into classrooms, come into schools with very high expectations of being able to use technology. This is their world. It might not be our world necessarily, but it's absolutely their world. And this is they are growing up in this environment. I'm sure those people that have got young children who have iPads and what have you, they're probably very, very au fait with doing whatever it might be, looking at photos or turning stuff on and off or looking at different apps or whatever it might be. This is their expectation, which is not to say, and I need to make this very, very clear, I'm not suggesting we should be using technology all the time. We should be using it when it's appropriate, when it does something which you can't do, using traditional means, when it enhances the teaching and learning in our classroom, not just in languages, but across the curriculum. We shouldn't be using it for the sake of it, when we get seduced by the shiny, and that never ever happens to me, obviously. But what we absolutely shouldn't do that. What we should do is we should use it, we should drill down into exactly why we're using a particular technology and use it when it's appropriate and when it enhances what we're normally doing. And that's really, really key. And on that point, that's what I wanted to say. So I hope you found that useful. I do appreciate that everyone's a bit tired and everything. But I've tried to show you what we're doing in the UK with the use of social media and how we're sharing, collaborating, and it's amazing. We are leading the world on that. I then showed you some ideas on using mobile technology, particularly iPads, and how to enhance teaching and learning that way. And then finally, how to use different web tools. So those people that haven't got iPads, etc., will be able to have a look at that as well. And so I've given you lots and lots of food for thought. I know we were still videoing, it's being videoed. I presume the record button was pressed at the beginning, I hope so anyway. And so if you want to watch this back again, or get in contact with me, just go to joe.talk21.com or have a look at my blog, and or send me a tweet, and I'll get back to you. But I hope you found that useful and enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Thank you.